Story 1. The Fire in the Hills. I never believed in dragons, not even as a kid. They were fairy tales, legends from a world long gone. But that changed in the winter of 2018, when I saw something that shattered my understanding of reality. I was hiking alone in the remote mountains of Montana. I had planned a week-long solo trip, a way to clear my mind after a brutal breakup. I wanted isolation. No phones, no people, just me and nature. I should have taken the silence as a warning. By the third day, I had settled into a routine. Hike during the daylight, set up camp before sundown, and enjoy the crisp, quiet wilderness. But that evening, as the sky darkened into deep purple, I noticed something strange. A glow, distant, flickering, on a ridge about a mile away. At first, I thought it was the setting sun reflecting off the snow, but the color was all wrong. It was red-orange, pulsing like embers, and it was moving. I stood there, transfixed, trying to make sense of it. Then, a sound split the air. A deep, guttural growl, so low I felt it in my bones. I wasn't alone. My body tensed. I turned off my flashlight and crouched low, peering through the trees. The glow grew brighter, illuminating the ridge. That's when I saw it. A shadow moved against the firelight, huge, impossible. At first, I thought it was a trick of the flames, a distortion of the heat waves. But then it moved again, and I saw the shape clearly. Wings, a long neck, a tail that lashed the ground, sending snow flying. A goddamn dragon. My breath hitched in my throat. It was massive, its scales glinting like molten metal. I saw its mouth open, revealing rows of dagger-like teeth. Then, with a deep inhale, it spewed fire across the ridge, setting the treetops ablaze. Panic surged through me. I backed away slowly, trying to control my breathing, my pulse hammering in my ears. It couldn't have seen me, not yet, but I knew that if it did, I was dead. The trees above me trembled as a gust of wind rushed down the mountain. No, not wind, wing beats. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I just sprinted into the darkness, my boots slipping on the icy ground. Behind me, I heard a deafening screech, followed by another rush of fire. The temperature surged as flames erupted through the forest. I ran for what felt like hours, lungs burning, legs screaming in protest. I didn't stop until I found a narrow crevice between two boulders and squeezed myself inside. I stayed there all night, shivering, listening to the occasional roar echoing through the mountains. By morning, the fire had died down. Smoke curled through the trees, and the ridge where I had first seen the creature was blackened and smoldering. I left everything behind, my tent, my supplies. I just ran until I reached my car and sped down the mountain without stopping. I never went back. I tried searching for news reports, forest fires, strange sightings, anything, but there was nothing. No mention of a blaze in the mountains. No missing hikers. No strange animal encounters. Nothing. But I know what I saw. And every time I close my eyes, I hear that growl in my bones. Story 2. The Thing Beneath the Lake. Some places were never meant to be disturbed. I learned that the hard way when I went fishing at Blackwood Lake. I grew up in a small town in rural Oregon, surrounded by dense forests and untouched wilderness. Blackwood Lake was a place of local legend. The elders warned people not to go there after dark. Some said it was cursed. Others claimed something lived beneath the water. I never believed in superstitions, and after years of hearing the same warnings, I dismissed them as old wives' tales. Then, one late summer evening in 2016, I made the mistake of going there alone. I was an experienced fisherman, and Blackwood Lake had some of the best trout in the region. I wanted to take advantage of the calm waters before the season ended. I packed my gear, grabbed my canoe, and paddled out just before sunset. The lake was eerily silent. No birds, no insects, just the occasional ripple on the surface. The air felt wrong, heavy, like something unseen was pressing against my chest. An hour passed, and I had caught nothing. That was odd. The lake had always been abundant with fish. I was about to call it a night when I felt something, a vibration in the water. It was deep, powerful, like the tremor of an earthquake. I gripped the sides of my canoe, my stomach twisting. Another vibration, stronger this time. Then, bubbles. Large, foaming bubbles broke the surface about 20 feet away. My mind scrambled for a logical explanation. An underground spring, a sudden release of gas. But deep down, I knew. Something was rising. Then, the water split open. A shape emerged, massive, black as the void, glistening in the fading light. At first, I thought it was a massive fish, maybe a sturgeon, but then I saw them wings. Huge, bat-like wings, slick with water, unfolding as the creature pulled itself from the depths. Its head broke the surface, long and narrow, with ridges running down its skull. Two glowing amber eyes locked onto me. I was looking at a dragon, a real, breathing, impossible dragon. It exhaled sharply, releasing a column of mist that drifted over the lake. My body locked up in sheer terror. Then, in one swift motion, the thing lunged. The canoe tilted violently, and I was thrown into the water. The lake swallowed me whole. Cold, suffocating darkness surrounded me as I struggled to swim. Beneath me, I saw it, the full size of the beast. Its body stretched endlessly into the depths, its serpentine tail vanishing into the abyss. I kicked frantically, breaking the surface with a desperate gasp. My canoe was upside down, drifting away. I turned. The dragon was circling me. I had no weapons, nothing to fight with, just my bare hands and the sheer will to survive. Then, as if sensing my fear, the dragon let out a sound. A deep, bone-rattling growl that vibrated through the water. It wasn't just a noise. It was something deeper, something old. The sound pierced my mind, filling it with images. Ruins beneath the lake, forgotten places, long-dead voices calling out from the abyss. This thing wasn't just an animal. It was ancient, a relic of something lost to time. I did the only thing I could. I swam. I don't know how I made it to shore. My limbs were frozen. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. I collapsed onto the rocky beach, coughing up lake water, gasping for breath. When I looked back, the dragon was gone. The lake was calm again, as if nothing had happened. I never went back, and I never told anyone, until now. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I hear it. That deep, vibrating growl in the distance, calling me back to the water. Story 3. The Shadow in the Canyon. I used to think I was invincible. I spent most of my life hiking through some of the most rugged terrain in the American Southwest, always seeking new places to explore. But nothing could have prepared me for what I encountered in the Grand Canyon in the fall of 2019. I'd heard the rumors. Of course, everyone has. Stories of strange creatures, of figures seen flying between the rock walls, of sounds that don't belong in nature. But, like most people, I shrugged them off as the product of overactive imaginations. Then, I went into the canyon alone. It was supposed to be a routine backpacking trip, a few days down to the Colorado River and back. The trail was quiet, not a soul in sight. As I hiked down into the canyon, the sun barely peeking over the cliffs. There's something majestic about the Grand Canyon at dawn, something humbling. But on the second day, I felt a shift. I had set up camp near the base of a cliff that afternoon. The light was starting to fade, and the air had a chill to it. I was checking my gear when I heard a low rumble. It wasn't the wind, it wasn't thunder. It was a sound that seemed to resonate from the earth itself. I stopped, listening. Then I heard it again. A deep, primal growl, vibrating through the rock, like the canyon was breathing. I froze. I thought at first it was just the canyon's natural acoustics, but then I saw it, movement. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, maybe a large bird gliding through the sky. But no bird could be that large, that unnatural. It was massive. Its shadow cast long across the canyon floor, and I realized it was flying. I rushed to the edge of the cliff, peering down into the valley below. The figure was still circling, but it was hard to make out. Then, the sun dipped lower, and the light hit just right. I saw it. A dragon. Its wings were enormous, stretching out like sails as it glided effortlessly through the air. Its body was long and serpentine, covered in dark scales that seemed to shimmer like polished obsidian. The creature was moving in a pattern, like it was searching for something. Its tail swept through the air like a whip, and then it let out a roar that shook the canyon. I backed away, heart pounding, my mind screaming at me to run. But where? I was deep in the canyon, with no clear path out. Suddenly, the creature's head jerked toward me. I could feel its gaze, like an invisible force. The dragon saw me. It began to descend. I grabbed my pack, adrenaline flooding my veins, and I ran. I didn't look back, but I could hear it. Its wings beating the air, the heavy thudding of its movements. I ran, stumbling over rocks, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The ground beneath me trembled as the creature closed in. Just when I thought it was too late, I reached a narrow crevice between two massive boulders. I squeezed inside, praying the dragon wouldn't find me. The walls were tight, and I was forced to hold my breath, trying to remain as still as possible. For what felt like hours, I listened to the creature circling above. Its growls echoed in the canyon, rattling my bones. And then, everything went silent. I didn't dare move. Eventually, the light began to fade completely, and I knew I had to get out of there. The next morning, when I finally emerged from my hiding spot, the canyon seemed different. The air was heavy, and I felt an oppressive weight pressing down on me, like the very rock was alive. I didn't see the dragon again, but I could feel its presence in the air. I moved quickly, making my way back to the trailhead as fast as I could, never once looking back. Since then, I've told no one. But every time I return to the canyon, I feel it again. The weight of its eyes on me. The feeling of being watched from the shadows. And sometimes, on the wind, I hear that same deep, resonant growl, as if it's waiting for me to return.